maybe up. Five. Yeah, silenzio. Poi non no.
La fastidio.
Eh? Le dà fastidio solamente che
Grazie, sempre.
parla.
No,
Ma tu non rispondi, offerte, troppo, tu.
porcherizza.
Come fa? Mannaggia me quando ho deciso di installare l'app di te, arrivo a fare.
No, ma qui quando metti sotto carica il cellulare, non so perché, ma se ne va un po' in tilt.
Ma poi non sulla serie, scusa, tanto io non mi siedo.
Ah, vabbè.
Ah, Carica.
Sì, sì, che si aprono, probabilmente va in filtro, ma si aprono pagine.
No, è vero.
No, non è tutto bene, che si aprono le pagine di attivazione, vari conflitti con cose.
Sei sicuro che non è qualche mago?
Penso. Non penso.
Non pensi?
Ci stanno spiando.
Non so. No, ma tipo non necessariamente di politico, volevo tipo spam, queste robe qua. Io da quando ho messo Norton sul telefono pure, sono tranquillissimo. Sono salito, ho fatto quello che io dico buonasera.
Qualche cosa, maniglie, cose.
Sì, no, in realtà no.
C'è la
No, io manina tu vai con l'altro.
Sì, sì, grazie. È pronto.
Tranquillo, ciao, buonasera. Okay, let's get back to our lesson. I promise it's almost finished, just the last 40 slides. Okay. No, well, the United States biological weapon warfare program, same as the chemical warfare program, was mainly located at Fort Detrick in Maryland. It is the headquarters of the USAMRIID. That means US Army Medical Research Institute for Infectious Diseases. And Fort Detrick was the center of the United States Biological Weapons Program from 1943 up to 1969. Much of the tests involving aerosols or infectious agents was conducted inside a steel sphere that you can see it now from Google Maps, referred to as the 8-ball because it was black originally. It consists of about 1 million liters sealed environment that could act as a fermenter as well as a test chamber. You can see all their images. So, the United States scientists understood the implication of agent aerosolization and focused their efforts on the task of identifying agents, formulations, dissemination systems that were, of course, optimized for that purpose. So they did a series of elaborate, complex field trials and demonstrated the ability to disseminate lethal biological agents over large areas. In the mid-60s, the US Air Force had a bomblet delivery system that allowed a single B-52 bombers to affect 10,000 square miles, as well as spray tank systems for use on fighter bombers, affecting 25,000 to 50,000 square miles. So it also sought to develop agents with different characteristics, especially a focus on the supposedly non-lethal agents that could be used in limited wars. Indeed, in the late 50s, the program invested far more on so-called incapacitating agents than acknowledged lethal agents. Especially a considerable effort was devoted during the 50s to develop anti-crop munitions, and we get back to the agro warfare and agroterrorism. The intended target was the agriculture of the Soviet Union and China. Despite the claims that the United States employed biological weapons during the Korean War, Si rimette in attesa. Boh. Especially was the Operation White Coat. This is the inside of the 8 balls. The pictures are original, so they are bad. I'm sorry. Operation White Coat, due to the name, was a biodefense medical research program carried out still in Fort Detrick in Maryland between the 1954 and 1973. And the program pursued medical research using volunteers and enlisted personnel who were eventually nicknamed White Coats. So, these volunteers were all conscientious objectors, including many members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, were informed of the purpose and goals of each project before providing consent to participate in any project. The purpose of the research was to defend troops and civilians against biological weapons. So, the White Coat operation contributed to vaccine approved by US Food and Drug Administration for yellow fever and hepatitis, and the investigational drugs for Q fever, Venezuelan encephalitis, Rift Valley fevers, and tularemia. Also, the USAMRID states that Operation White Coat helped develop the biological safety equipment, including food safety cabinets, decontamination procedures, fermenters, incubators, centrifuges, and particle sizers. Then we came in 1972, when finally the Biological Weapon Convention had born. So the convention prohibited the possession of any biological and toxic weapon and entered into force in 1978. As I told you, the treaty does not define what constitutes a biological weapon. This is important because if the definitions are not clear and mutually understood, they say, oh yeah, it is snake venom, but it's not a biological weapon. It's a biochemical weapon, you know. The subsequent deliberations made clear that the agreement proscribes the possession of any weapon that incorporates any pathogenic microorganism or poison of biological origin, including those developed using science that did not exist at the time the treaty was negotiated. It is very important. It's one of the last modifications. So, inside the convention are included those organisms or toxins that did not exist in 1972 when the treaty was negotiated. The Soviet Union never intended to respect the treaty, of course. Its efforts to develop biological weapons accelerated after the BWC entered into force.
Excuse me, there is no shared presentation.
Nicola, non si vede lo
Sì,
schermo.
ho sentito. Ma
Ok.
come non funziona? Ma porca miseria. Vediamo un attimo, aspetta, no, perché? Non condivide. Sì, non parte la condivisione, ma tu guarda un po'. Ma si ferma da solo, va in pausa da solo, fa tutto da solo sta cosa. Now? It works?
Sì, perfetto.
Ok. So, as I told you before, the Biological Weapon Convention lacks about verification process and lacks about an organization devoted to verification procedures, as the OPCW has its own inspectors. So the treaty's signatories tried to negotiate a protocol to provide them during the 90s, but the attempt failed. The United States is often blamed, but Russia and the members of the non-aligned movement also undermined the negotiations. So no one seems to have interest in monitoring the production or not about biological weapons. Well, being honest, no country loves foreign inspectors inside its own countries, inspecting its own facilities, especially delicate facility or critical facilities. So it is very important that this organization, exactly like PCW is under control of the United Nations to give a neutrality contest in which each operator that will go to inspect or to check if they are respecting the treaty is under the flag of the United Nations, so somehow considered neutral. You know, like Red Cross. Red Cross is Red Cross or Red Crescent. It's a symbol. It's considered it's a symbol of neutrality all over the world and recognizing as it. Okay, not by all countries, a couple of countries, not, but well, it's another question. So anyway, despite the treaty's flaws, the Biological Weapon Convention, I really suggest you to go find it on Google, on the internet. It's just 4 small pages, 4 to 4 or 5 small pages. That it is really naive, you know. But anyway, it plays a central role in the legitimization of biological warfare. So the BTWC has review conferences held every 5 years since the 1978 and provided the opportunity also for the international community to reaffirm its continued importance. Remember, the BWC, now BTWC, do not have verification procedures, nor an independent organism to apply. Moreover, while the Chemical Weapon Convention, as I told you, is an extensively articulated treaty of 165 pages, including annexes, the BWC looks more like a self-declaration of non-proliferation and use, which leaves large margins of uncertainty, especially in light of the continuous development in genetic engineering, like CRISPR and other stuff. So, another strange thing, as I told you, is about toxins, because they should be part of the BWC, yet the only 2 toxins are included in Schedule 1 of the CWC and are ricin and saxitoxin. Because no one else did, as they told me. So, the second review conference in 1986, the state parties agreed to strengthen the treaty by exchanging annual confidence building measures, CBM. These are the 10 key provisions of the convention. Article 1, undertaking never under any circumstance to develop, produce, stockpile, acquire, or retain biological weapons. Article 2, undertaking to destroy biological weapons or divert them to peaceful purposes. Article 3, undertaking not to transfer or in any way assist, encourage, or induce anyone to manufacture or otherwise acquire biological weapons. Then Article 4 is the requirement to take any national measures necessary to prohibit and prevent the development, production, stockpiling, acquisition, or retention of biological weapons within a state's territory, under its jurisdiction or under its control. Article 5, undertaking to consult bilaterally and multilaterally and cooperate in solving any problems which may arise in relation to the objective or in application of the BWC. Article 6, the right to request the United Nations Security Council to investigate alleged breaches of the BWC and undertaking to cooperate in carrying out any investigation initiated by the Security Council. So, as I told you, CWC has the OPCW as a control organism. BWC have none, so they have to relate to the Security Council of the United Nations. Article 8 is undertaking to assist any state party exposed to danger as a result of violation of the BWC. Article 10, undertaking to facilitate and have the right to participate in the fullest possible exchange of equipment, materials, and information for peaceful purposes. You can see the PwC in the world. The light green are those that are signed and ratified. The dark green are those who acceded or succeeded in ratified. The yellow one are only signatory, like Syria, Egypt, and Somalia. The non-signatory are Djibouti, Chad, Central African Republic, Israel. Even North Korea signed the PwC. Israel didn't. But Israel is a friendly country. This is strange. So, biological warfare state use. A few countries, including Israel, Rhodesia, and South Africa, made limited and small-scale use of biological agents. These activities were little more than biological sabotage, okay, sabotage actions, not too dissimilar from those that the biological warfare program of the Germany during the World War I. And they have nothing in common with sophisticated aerosol delivery mastered by the United States and the Soviet Union, of course. Israel employed biological agents on several occasions during the 1948 by contaminating water supplies. Some Israeli operatives attempting to spread infectious agents were captured by the Egyptian army in Gaza. Allegedly, the Israelis also tried to attack Syrian forces with biological agents. In addition, there is evidence that the Israelis targeted Palestinian settlements apparently to prevent refugees from returning to their former homes. There also were allegations that a British military unit was attacked by biological agents by Israel. These were crude attacks, less sophisticated than the ones launched by the Germans against the French or the United States. Similarly, the Rhodesian government, you know, the white supremacy government of Zimbabwe, employed biological and chemical agents during the struggle against African nationalists in the 70s. It made extensive use of chemicals, usually by contaminated clothing with deadly pesticides, probably killing hundreds of guerrillas. Some reports allege that it also made a failed attempt to disseminate the pathogen responsible for cholera and experimented with other agents as well. We have claims that the Rhodesians were responsible also for a massive anthrax outbreak among cattle that led to a substantial number of cases of gastrointestinal anthrax, including many deaths that have never been proven. Are just claims. Then also the South Africans, not the current South Africans, the apartheid South Africans, admitted to mounting a few small biological attacks. Reportedly, they tried to spread cholera in a guerrilla camp, but the water treatment system killed the pathogens. They forgot that, in the urban area of South Africa, the water is chlorinated, so the Vibrio cholera died. One account claims that they also distributed sugar contaminated with Salmonella typhimurium at a meeting of the African National Congress. It's doubtful that these attacks were effective. It also appears that officials working for the Brazilian government's Indian Protective Service deliberately introduced pathogens into the Amazonic Aboriginal population. So, still, you remember the witness, the Aboriginal witnesses from Claude Lévi-Strauss, the anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss? Well, it came out that some South African scientists were working in Brazil for the Brazilian landowners. Well, we don't have evidence. That's just you know, clues. But well, okay, mestizos, people of mixed blood sick with smallpox, influenza, tuberculosis, and measles, were sent to interact with Aboriginal peoples between 1957 and 1963. Investigators could not confirm reports that some Indians were infected with smallpox. There is no evidence to suggest that these actions were officially sanctioned by the country leaders. Okay, could happen. You know, they are only aborigines. Although there are numerous additional allegations of applying biological weapons, most are, of course, untrue. They are just propaganda against the country. Or so the Soviet Union and its allies were responsible for spreading many of them, including false claims that the United States spread biological agents during the Korea War. That HIV originated in the US biological warfare laboratories, and that the United States mounted numerous biological attacks on Cuba. The US, however, conducted biological warfare experiment on self, on its own population. Yeah, really, they are crazy people. Soon after the war, the US military started to open air tests, exposing test animals, human volunteers, and unsuspecting civilians to both pathogenic and non-pathogenic microbes. A release of bacteria from the naval vessels of the coast of Virginia, San Francisco, infected many people, including 80,000 people in the Bay Area alone, in San Francisco Bay. Yeah. Bacterial aerosols were released at more than 200 sites, including bus station, airport, metro station, and in the 1966, they contaminated the New York metro system by themselves with Bacillus globigi, that is a non-infectious bacteria, just to see how potentially the Soviets will use a bacteria inside the metro of New York. But you know what? Bacillus globigi, it's true it's not a pathogen, but it causes many cases of allergic symptoms in many people. That's all, what's a strange allergy, but it's winter. I don't know why. Yeah, now we know why. Okay? Still, it's to simulate the release of anthrax and to study the spread of the pathogen in a big city. Yes. Oh, we have to test it. On who? Yeah. On our self-population. Yeah, why not? So during the Cold War, there were limited terrorist interest in biological warfare. We have only, and we will see later, one and only significant act of bioterrorism during the Cold War era that was committed by a cult group, the Rajneeshis, in 1984. Guess where? In the US. Having come into conflict with the local community, blah, 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 okay. Using Salmonella typhimurium, 751 people to become ill. Then we have the Aum Shirrikyo, the Japanese cult we will see later. We have their case studies that we will see in detail. They developed botulinum toxin and Bacillus anthracis and Clostridium botulinum. But of course, the Aum Shirrikyo is famous mostly for the sarin gas into Tokyo metro stations. Al-Qaeda created a biological warfare program in the late 90s. They were okay. The program, being honest, I had to report this, but it was not a serious biological warfare program. You know, they found this up to 2008 or 2010. I don't know if you remember in Italian TV news, the rats under oil found in Morocco. They tried to develop botulinum wide strains by taking rats and put in oil jar and to ferment inside the oil jar to develop in a anaerobic system, a homemade anaerobic system to develop strains of Clostridium botulinum. Yeah, they found Clostridium botulinum, but Clostridium botulinum is ubiquitous, you know. So you just take a rat, so we probably found even other pathogens, and you put other, but it's not a real method of it's not a real biological warfare program, okay? It's a homemade biological warfare. It's the little the little chemist, no? It's like that. The little biological warfare maker. Okay, but anyway, it has to be mentioned, and because they tried. Okay, so they tried. That meant that they wanted to apply something like that. Okay, the last major bioterrorism event. This is my opinion. It might better be classified as a biocrime than a bioterrorism. Was the anthrax letter attacks? We will see in the case studies, also called Ameritrax. Another notable case was the deliberate infection in the early 90s of a woman by a Louisiana doctor with HIV-infected blood. This is also biocrime. This was the first courtroom test of the new science and demonstrated that judges were willing to accept such forensic evidences. In another notable case, in the late 90s, public health investigators linked a hospital technician to an unusual outbreak of Shigella associated with the eating of pastries. And this was the first time that law enforcement officials employed epidemiology as an investigative tool to support the prosecution of the suspect. And the suspect was, of course, convicted. So what is the future of biological warfare? We talked about the past and the present. Let's talk about the future. Some scholars argue that continuing advances in biological sciences, especially in genetics, also the globalization of biological skills, the growing accessibility of enabling technologies will inevitably result in more and more deadly use of biological weapons. Potentially, okay? So the capabilities that were once limited just to United States and Soviet Union now can be accessible even to non-state actors, because the prices of machinery, centrifuge is really low now compared to 30 or 40 years ago. So capable that were not available, like genetic engineering, also to the superpowers, might be accessible also to lone actors up to now. And well, we see that biological warfare in the last century has been rare. So the only significant use resulting in substantial loss of life was by Japan against the Chinese. The real biological warfare means warfare. So the use is generally considered more morally or politically repugnant. This is very important, even for some extremist fringes, and this is my opinion, brings a strong light of hope considering the biological warfare. So we must take into account that if the general behavior will change in the next future, so even the general behavior and so the ethical constraint disappeared. You remember when I told you about the use of poison when the hunter-gatherer tribes start to become civilization and build cities? They found They found repugnant to use poison during the war action. Not honorable, not ethical, but it is strictly related to the mentality, to the culture of and now in the globalized world. From some point of view, I feel more safe because really no one who is mind clear would like to do something like that. So, in my opinion, about all the CBRN acronym, this is the less probable one. Yet the problem exists, and so we need to take attention and to focus on it, even if it doesn't happen, if it is the less probable. But it's our duty as a technician, as as scientists, as professional, to keep the world a safer place, okay? And to keep the ethics about everything. Last of all mushrooms are edible, some are only ones. Okay. This is a Croatian proverb. Thank you for your kind attention. This is the first part, the most heavy one. The other are more easier. This is a short bibliography that you will find very interesting. And this one is over now. Ah, yeah. Dov'è? Ah, presto. Allora, adesso, questo lo possiamo chiudere. Quindi adesso ci guardiamo quest'altro. Vediamo quest'altro. Ci guardiamo il biological agents. Ok. Dai. No, all'inizio. Okay. Now we're going to talk about biological agents. Can you see the presentation online?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, it's clear, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
These are known biological agents with potential biological warfare use. We have parasites, we have fungi, protozoans, bacteria, chlamydia and rickettsia types, and finally, viruses. So, this is a little question. You can see a shark with fishes, a clownfish, a mosquito, humans. So what do these four images have in common? I will ask you later. So, human organisms can be food or home for, it is okay. I apologize for those who have deep biology notions, because it takes very easy, okay, from the beginning, for various biological agents. And so we are not aside from the biologic concepts of parasitism. And these agents are not necessarily microscopic. So we can be parasited by many kinds of animals. Yet those we cannot see are difficult, of course, to recognize and to eliminate from our body. So the attack from the lower metazoa are called infestations, while the attack from microorganisms are called infections. This is important. This is a terminology that you have to catch and remember. Infestation and infection are two different things. They still mean an attack on you, but by different meaning. So what have in common these four images? It's a joke, okay. We have three basic forms of parasitism. The commensalism, in this case. The mutualism, or symbiosis. The parasitism, properly said. And what are we? Are we parasite of the planet? I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, okay, it's a question. We just, there was a famous philosopher, Heidegger, that was a great philosopher. I think it was a Nazi, but okay, it was a great philosopher. And he said the modern man has changed his view, while instead of a wood, he see, wood. Okay. He said, of a tree wood, he said just only wood, and instead of a land, he said the resources below the land. And that's all. That's us, maybe. Anyway, we have three different way of parasitism. Oh, bad. In the commensalism, we share the same food. I don't remember your name. Filippo. Okay. Me and Filippo are sharing some pasta dishes. Ask me and you. Okay? 1-on-1. No one lose. In the symbiosis, in the mutualism, Filippo cook pasta for me, but I drink wine for him. Okay? So it's a win-win. In the parasitism, I go every day to Filippo's house to steal his pasta. Okay? And Filippo that want to eat the whole dish of pasta, usually it's only half or maybe less because I came before he came from work and I steal his pasta. Okay? This is the difference between commensalism, mutualism, and parasitism. Of course, if we want to show from an evolutionary point of view, in your opinion, biologists stay silent, thank you, please. Okay? In your opinion, what is the most evolved form of parasitism? Guess what? Opinion? Tu lo so, lo sai. Non mi guardare così, che mi fai sentire in imbarazzo. So, we have, it's all parasitism, okay? But they are in different ways. In your opinion, the most evolved form. Okay, nature is not intelligent, but anyway, the better solution usually are the most reproducible ones. Okay, so the answer often is that between the three different parasitism ways, the one who gives you the best gain to both is the winner one. So it is the symbiosis, the mutualism. Because in this case, the clownfish use the tentacles to be protected by predators, but make the animal clean by parasites because he eats the parasites, and so the animal is clean and in good shape. So but in this case, they share the food, but it's just a simple sharing. In this case, of course, the proper parasitism could lead often to the death of the host. And so, dying the host, I have only two chances: to change a host or to die together with the host. So it's probably, it's not sure, but it's still a matter of debate, okay? But this is the most ancient form of parasitism. This is quite evolved one, and this is the most evolved because both will enjoy the sharing. So let's talk about infestation, the lower metazoa. This is a lower metazoa. Infestations are made by the common cold parasites. So arthropods, tapeworms, and whatever. So the infested organism does not reproduce in the host. This is why it is infestation. Okay, this is the most important thing between infestation and infection. Yeah, you can see, yeah, but the il pidocchio, che non mi ricordo come si chiama in inglese. Vabbè. Lice, okay. The lice will put the eggs on my hairs. Yeah, not inside me, just on me. So does not reproduce in the host, not on the host. So the most frequent infestation are scabies. In Italy, we are having a recrudescence of scabies. I don't know why. Pediculosis, body lice, arthropod disease, especially fleas, echinococcus, and filaria. Schistosome, many others. And so we can be hosts for numerous parasites. Some are specified to be for us. So we are the elected host. Some are come si dice, in involuntary hosts, but however we are hosts. So even the lower metazoans have their parasites inside. Like in example, Xenopsida chaopis, as I told you in the earlier presentation, have Yersinia pestis inside her. Or the Ixodes ricinus, the tick, have the Rickettsia provanzeti inside it. So infection can occur from different sources. The source of infection are mainly four. Okay, so we have five sources: air, water, soil, food, and animal. So we can have airborne diseases, waterborne diseases, soil-borne diseases, food-borne diseases, and zoonosis that comes from animals that can be divided in another quite few subclasses. Anyway, even the plant kingdom has its parasites, bacteria, phytoplasms, and viruses, but they are harmless to mankind and mammalians. Okay. For example, being a researcher about olives and olive oil, you probably know, or maybe not, the case of Xylella fastidiosa on olive tree. Okay, that now is spreading in all over Italy and even some part of Spain, maybe in southern Greece, something found, I don't know. But anyway, it started giving big problem. But when the Xylella fastidiosa started in the southern Apulia region, I still was not a researcher. I was there with the researcher chief of my institute, and I already did the master here. And I saw technicians and researchers like this, like me, go inside the infected field with their shoes, taking branches, putting in pockets, another branch using the knives to cut the branches, then the same knife used to cut another branch. No cordon zones, no police. Say, so you should cordon the field. You should wear proper equipment. Use sterilized tools. Use something to cover your clothes. Use the plastic bags to seal for the infected branches. Why don't you not do that? It's a plant pathogen, harmless for us. Yeah, but what if a vector finishes down on my shoes and I go in another field, I spread the infection? That's why. That's because most of the agricultural technicians, especially those working on crops and working crops on trees, cultivation, so they do not have any, not at all. They do not have any knowledge about safety measures, about prophylaxis, about hygiene, because they are working with plant pathogens. Plant pathogens does not affect humans, so I'm safe. Who cares? Okay? They do not focus their mind. So I insisted, even with my boss, I said, no, we should have CSI Miami. No, it's not CSI Miami, it's true. He gets rid of me saying, no, let's call it, come si chiamava? Orazio. Orazio. Cioè, capito? CSI Miami, da in pensione, meno male, in un ci retired, luckily for everyone. So let's talk about macroorganisms. Macro means big. You can see them and yet they can harm you. Okay. They're ticks, major vector of Lyme disease. An adult black fly with the Oncochera volvulus coming out from the insect's antenna. A mosquito, an Anopheles stephensi, a female vector of malaria. You can see them. They can be, of course, parasites can be both macro or microorganisms from various kingdoms. They can be insects, arthropods, nematodes, and they do not represent a real menace unless they are used as vectors for deadlier agents such as plague for the fleas, the typhus for body lice and ticks, the Lyme disease for the ticks, and so on. So any animal can be a vector of disease. Of course, we are animal too. Okay, so, and that's another part of prevention from biological warfare, because a lot of people currently think to bacteria or to viruses or to parasites, but even professionals, it's rarely they focus on the vectors, and we presume that should be quite a research about the use of vectors of a pathogen, because you know what? If me, Nicola, I came here with a bottle full of a flurry filled with anthrax and started doing this, okay? There are cameras that are watching me and say, oh, Nicola spread slurry on people infected with anthrax, okay? But if I just free 2 million of mosquitoes, or 1 million of infected bats, or 100,000 infected rabbits for to destroy. Say you use it biological. Me, no, it was rabbits. Rabbits are everywhere. This is something that we have to take into account, and we will talk about vectors. So the microorganism, of course, what you can see is usually more dangerous than what is visible. Let's start with fungi. Fungi are eukaryotes that go to form a kingdom made of many phyla, each one containing hundreds of taxonomic genus and thousands of species. They, of course, are the parasites for excellence, because to survive and prosper, act one or more forms of parasitism. So they could be commensal, they could be symbiotic, they could be parasitic. It depends. Of course, they can help saving us from diseases like antibiotics. They feed us in many ways, like mushrooms, yeast, and whatever, or they can infect us. There is a special presentation about fungi, but for time purposes, I will not show you, because you can see that some fungus can do. Okay, well, fine. Okay, let's talk about fungi of potential. What is called? Of potential use in biological warfare. Of course, this is the main actor of a potential biological warfare use. It is Coccidioides ignitis and Coccidioides posadasti. It's the same species with a dimorphic form. They are molds, saprophytic, that reproduced by Arthrochonidia in the soil. Arthrochonidia have some fungal spores. You can see this is the effect. It's segmenting, and these are Arthrochonidia. The parasitic form grows as spherical cells and spores. So this is the not parasitic form. And it's responsible for coccidioidomycosis, ICD-10 code with 38, also called valley fever or San King fever or desert fever. And it is a soil-borne disease that can, of course, being into spore, can become airborne. But you know, the spores are not pathogens. But once in our body, they turned into the other form and became pathogens. They anyway have low potential use as a bioweapon. Okay. And another fungus under investigation because there is an increasing, a dramatic increasing infectivity and also drug resistance is Candida auris. Candida auris is not properly a fungus, but it's a yeast. Anyway, the kingdom is a fungi. Candida auris, especially in the United States, can give serious pneumonia, especially in people with lung problems. And we start seeing recrudescence of Candida auris, especially after the COVID-19. And this yeast can easily become drug resistant. This is Candida auris at microscope, at electronic microscope. We have protozoa. They are usually unicellular eukaryotes, and they can live in colonies, or it seems that individuals in colonies can communicate, but still in research. Can be free living or parasites. Reproduction can be sexual or asexual. They are ubiquitous, but most are found in waters, especially seas, rivers, lakes, and puddles. They have a complex biology and are far more evoluted than bacteria. And once they were related to plants, the protozoa were related to plants, then a special taxonomic grade was created because due to the huge number of families and genus. We can see here, this is Ganozoa. So, many protozoa are parasitic and can give various diseases to human, especially the Apicomplexa phylum that is exclusively parasitic. Only one is being considered as potential biological weapon, okay, for what is known up to now, and babesiosis and malaria. But the one considered as potential BBU is the cryptosporidioids. Done by Cryptosporidium parvum. This is the code ICD-10 807.2. Then we have also cyclosporiasis, schistoisosporiasis, and toxoplasmosis. But they are not lethal as the Cryptosporidium parvum is. As you can see, this is from the CDC. I'm sorry because it has not great. Okay, to show it, I had to enlarge it and it was not working well. So we have a thick-walled oocyst that, when being ingested, can be expelled, then can contaminate the water and you drink it, and the cycle is this. But inside our organism, the oocyst will open and the sporozoite will become a trophozoite and will damage our intestine. It's quite a bad disease. Huh? Then we have bacteria. We can see the different kind of bacteria. They are separated, okay, they are separated by their shape. It's not commonly used anymore because we prefer to refer to them with the genus and species name. But anyway, while working at the optic microscope, we still do the separation with the shape. For example, a Staphylococcus shape of bacteria will not say it's a pneumonia. Pneumonia are often Staphylococcus. You know, Borrelia type spirilli are different from the borreliosis, are different from the typical spirillum, like Treponema pallidum or leptospirosis. So still, it is for a new identification, can be useful to remember the shape. So they are single cells. They can live in colonies of various shape. They have a single DNA chromosome and no nuclear membrane, of course. Their kingdom is composed of many phyla. Those species only in our organism are about 5,000. And luckily, only a few hundred of them are pathogens for human beings, but some are really highly lethal. Okay, we have many bacteria that can be of potential use in biological warfare. Of course, the king of the bacteria is, of course, the Bacillus anthracis. Why? Because it's the most studied, because it's can be very effective, especially if engineered, okay. Can be drug resistant. So, in Europe, the biological warfare programs in the world, together with his queen, that was Yersinia pestis, there are, anyway, other bacteria like the Francisella tulanensis for tularemia, Burkholderia malei for glanders, Burkholderia pseudomalei for melioidosis, Vibrio cholerae for cholera, Brucella melitensis or Brucella mortus for brucellosis, Shigella dysentery for dysentery, Salmonella typhi for typhoid fever, Salmonella species for salmonellosis, and Mycobacterium tuberculosis for tuberculosis, of course. We have also other bacteria of great interest, not because of them, but because of the toxin they produce. You can see here in the green list. Okay, now the biologist present will hate me, but I put chlamydias and rickettsias inside the bacteria slide. They are not bacteria. They are smaller than bacteria. They are bigger than a virus, but smaller than bacteria, and they are endocellular parasites, but intracellular parasites. But they are quite a bit more difficult to cultivate and grow in the lab. Anyway, if you want to do it, you do it. Okay, we have the technology to do that. So the bacteria that are a bit interested is especially Clostridium botulinum for the botulin toxin. Then we have the Clostridium perfringens for the epsilon toxin for gangrene and food poisoning. The Escherichia coli, especially the strain O157H7 for its toxin makes colitis, hemorrhagic colitis, and the enterotoxin B of the Staphylococcus aureus for food poisoning, and of course Clostridium tetani for the tetanus toxin. Then we have viruses. Viruses are submicroscopic. Of course, you can't see viruses on the optic microscope. You need the electronic microscope to see them. So, for now, I don't know. I'm not working anymore with the evolutionists and so on. But there was a debate when I was a student if a virus can be considered alive or not alive. Basically, on first hand, one should say no, it's alive, because it can infect, yeah. But without a host, it can't reproduce by itself, while a bacteria can. So it's something borderline to the concept or what is life and what is not. And as you can see, they have different shapes. Viruses, in fact, all the life forms, they are, okay, you know what, the viruses are the most ancient form of parasitism. That's why. and most of them, they kill their host. It is a lose-lose strategy in the longer time. For example, many coronaviruses, like the recent SARS-CoV-2, that affected the humanity, with the consequent evolutions and mutations, have become something like the common cold virus. But in the beginning, they were more lethal, exactly like the COVID-19 did. But we were lucky because, mutation can be favorable to us or can be unfavorable to us. So probably even a mutation that could be more effective and more lethal could have been developed. Luckily, it didn't happen. So the mutation, the less lethal mutations, being less lethal, were easily spread around. So the majority of the virus were the less lethal one, and so the hypothetically more lethal mutation has disappeared. I hope forever. So we have plenty of viruses of potential or effective use. We have, okay, the CDC have 3 categories, A, B, and C. A are the priority agents. And in the priority agents, we have all the hemorrhagic fever viruses, like Ebola, Marburg, etc. They are so-called filoviruses. Then we have the arenaviruses, like the Lassa fever and the Machupo fever. The polioviruses, like the Congo-Crimean fever. And the flavivirus, like the dengue fever. Dengue fever, chikungunya. Then the pox viruses, like variola major or smallpox. Then we have the category B and C that are called less priority, but they are really bad viruses, like the alphaviruses of viral encephalitis, the currency viruses for the viral gastroenteritis, flavivirus like yellow fever. This is interesting because yellow fever is the elder cousin of the dengue fever. Yellow fever is more lethal than dengue, but it's in category B, while dengue fever, that is less lethal, is in category A. You know why?
It's more infectious.
Okay, the answer is that dengue fever is an hemorrhagic fever. Yellow fever is not. Especially in reinfection, the dengue fever spread into the hemorrhagic phase. Yeah. And we have bad news. In Italy, dengue fever is becoming endemic. Yeah. We have the West Nile virus since the end of 90s. Then we had chikungunya, then we had dengue, and October 2024, we had the first endemic case in the European Union of yellow fever at Cyprus. Endemic, I mean, not from travel, not for endemic. But you know what? The vector is the same. It's an arbovirus. Arbovirus means not like arthropod viruses. The mosquito responsible for both yellow fever and dengue fever and chikungunya is the same vector, Aedes albopictus or Aedes aegypti. We don't have Aedes aegypti in Italy, we have Aedes albopictus, the tiger mosquito. Okay? is the favorite factor. More, I say chikungunya, but chikungunya, the Toga virus, is not an hemorrhagic fever. Anyway, have quite a good lethality, especially in children. We have self-associated respiratory virus, coronaviruses, and we have Nipah that are highly lethal, really highly lethal, but are considered B and C category because they are, and it's not, well, they are related to specific environments and need a specific jump of species. You know the story of Andra and Nipah? Oh, okay, if you have 5 minutes, I will tell you, then we have a break. Okay. Hendra, the first to be detected was Hendra virus in Australia, in Western Australia. So people in a local hospital near Brisbane, I don't know the city in the far west of Australia, I don't remember, okay, near the city, the major city of the Western Australia, they realized that 1, 2, 3, 4 people died by a mysterious virus. And others felt sick. They all were working in farming. So start seeing whatever they found it was a virus with a really high mortality, and they realized that this virus was present in the fruit bats saliva. Okay, but the researcher then asked, "Hey, okay, but it's in the fruit bat saliva. We are full of fruit bats." And people works, for forestry preservation and whatever, and veterinaries and whatever. They have to do every day with fruit bats. So why do we heard something about people like vets or forestry people died with strange virus? No. Oh, okay. Strange. So let's take a vet or a forestry personnel and let's take a blood sample to see if they have antibodies against this virus. And they have. So they were in contact with the virus, but they did not contract the disease. I should say, why these people died? And other people felt ill. Then they realized that, so they took also fruit bats, they found the virus, they found antibodies inside the bats and the people working into the forest and so on, but they never took the disease. Okay. So they thought, okay, there must be a species that makes the jump from the bat to the human. And they were quite smart because they suddenly realized that was the horse. And so the people there in the farms were working with the horses, but no one took care to inform the authorities about dead horses, because they are horses. They're not humans. Lack of communication. So, and remember that horses are not aborigines of Australia. The British brought the horses in Australia. That's why even aboriginal, I forgot this, even aboriginal people who live in the forest had the antibodies, but never took the disease. So what happened? That the fruit bats eats the fruit with the infected saliva. The fruits fall down from the tree. The horses, while riding, find the fruit half bitten and finish to eat the fruit infected. The virus infected the horse. The virus mutated inside the horse that sneezed and infected the farmer, and the farmer died. So we have this is the exact process of zoonosis. Nipah did the same, exactly the same in the Malaysia forest and even Singapore and Malaysia and part of Indonesia. Nipah did the same, but in a different way, and this is part fault of us. but it's part of our, not our, of us, but our as mankind. Because if there is a tribe in the jungle of Malaysia and the shaman say, don't go inside the jungle because there are bad spirits that will eat you, that will take you, you don't go inside the forest, okay? But we are a human civilized, we need precious wood like tech wood, and we have big excavators and big trucks, and so we can go inside the forest with no fear of the forest. And don't make me say bad words. And we go deep inside the forest to cut the tree of the tech tree to make the precious wood, okay, and to sell it. But inside those trees there are fruit bats infected with Nipah virus, the same story. And they fled, and they fled from the forest, and they go near the farm. Which farm? Pig farms. And so same joke. The bats eat the fruit after eaten first down. The pig ate the infected fruit. The virus mutated inside the pig, and people became infected. So the Nipah virus was called the pig cough virus because you can hear the pig coughing from kilometers because the lung edema. And it was highly infected. And they found was the pigs. Why? Because Malaysia is divided into Muslim and not Muslim. The non-Muslim got infected, the Muslim did not. Because they do not eat pig. They do not get closer to pig. So, say, okay, probably are the pigs. Fuck. So, the capacity of the investigators, of the first responder, of the health personnel, it's fundamental to find the etiology and how the pathogen would work. So it's not important you remember all these names. I don't care about this name. I would like really that you should you change your mind and you be more side to think laterally, not only straight. And because probably, especially those who are professional and those who will work on the field need to do that, and your capacity of think laterally can be the difference between a small outbreak and an epidemic, for example. You don't know. It could happen to you while you are in service, while you are on duty. You don't know. So, this is a citizen list with potential bioterrorism agents divided into three main categories. As I told you, A, B, and C. So, category A, as I showed you, is high priority, easy to disseminate or transmit person to person, high mortality rates, potential for major public health impact, cause public panic as a social disruption, special action for public health preparedness. Then we have the B group, that moderately easy to disseminate, moderate morbidity rates and low mortality rates, and at the end, even the agents are easy to produce and disseminate, and have high morbidity and mortality, include emerging pathogens that could be engineered for mass dissemination. So we have antivirus, highly pathogenic strains influenza, and so on. You can find on the CDC website. So we live in a world full of pathogens of various kinds, yet humanity has not gone extinct. Because we have adaptation, we have geographical location, passive and active defenses. It's not easy for an organism to infect or infest us. Paul, why, in your opinion, Ebola since inside the jungle of in African jungles, since, I don't know, since when we still were apes, and when we were not extinct. Strange, because it has really high mortality, more than 60%. Okay, one of the answer, there are more, but one of the answer is that luckily in the Central Africa it's all jungle. Okay, so from one village to the other village can be on 80, 100, 150 kilometers. So walking inside the jungles can need, 8 days, 10 days, 14 days to go to the next village. So in 14 days, you are dead inside the jungle, and no one will stop you. Or probably you are not infected. And so that's why are all small, highly lethal, deadly outbreak. But okay, now you take a plane in Rome with 9 hours, you are in Beijing. With 6 hours, you are in New York. Huh? And if you are infected, the last coronavirus in the 18th century was an American coronavirus. Was kept in America. Was deadly like COVID, but was kept in America. Why? Because to go from the harbor of Boston to the harbor of Naples, the ship takes 22 days. In 22 days, you are here, you are recovered from the illness, or you are dead. If you are dead, you are going to the sea because they discharge the body into the sea. If you are recovered, you are okay. So the coronavirus lasted inside the United States. Also, in the 18th century, the United States East Coast, the West Coast was unaffected because you have to cross all the United States. There was no railroad, no planes, no nothing. On the horse, you died, you recovered. You have two options. That's why our human species has not extended. But now we have technology. Technology can help us or can kill us. You must pay attention to this. So you can see an Ebola viruses. This presentation is made in cooperation with my friend Cristiano Franchi, that now is not here for the master, but he works. It's a commander it's a biologist. He's a biologist working as commander in the police in the penitentiary of Libya, and he works on DNA and other stuff. And but he worked with me. And now we take a little break of 10 minutes, coffee break.
Se il caso della sirena lei è sceso nel sanito per...
Sì, ma io contavo un po' di coca all'epoca. Per favore, io mi chiamo Nicola, non mi dai del tu. Dammi delle regole, dammi del tu. Io sono di scuola svedese. Ma sai la storia, no?
No.
Allora, in svedese esiste il lei, ma non lo sa nessuno.
Ah sì.
Danno del tu anche a re.
Ah, ok.
Dicono tu maestà, cioè sempre maestà, però tu maestà.
Io
Se
non
ci
è che
danno
sì.
del lei vuol dire che gli stai sul cazzo.
Ah, ecco.
Perché, capito? Metto la distanza. Se danno del lei vuol dire che no, con te c'è una che fa. E questa cosa mi ha segnato, quando ero ragazzo, che era anni 90, mi ha segnato, cioè, vabbè, se a scuola dei ragazzetti, là, devi mettere forza la distanza dopo si mangiano. Ma poi sei tutto professionista.
No, interessante la cosa della bicicletta.
E quello è il volontario. Pensa della volontà. Pensa delle un'altro di anno per già beando queste altre cose, abbiamo attenzione. Cioè, vabbè, il problema è che tutta la disciplina non siamo io sto Io la mia l'ho detto, ma perché se mai devo fare quelle cose. Non mi ispira. Cioè, allora, ma sai, c'è un che non possono dare, però i soldi la stabilità non c'è, allora, poi posso sempre rischiare, però a parte tutto quello che si può, a Monti è arrivata la sicurezza. Era
della portata. No, a volte quando uno focalizzata, concentrata su una cosa, c'è tipo un rumore, qualcosa che viene fuori, sì, qualche problema. Esatto. Prima ora non lo fa più. Vabbè, che devo fare l'utilissima, cioè, padre della pensa, pensare la vita, e ci stai padre cosa che fare? È un scuola. Nel senso di pensare. Io lavoro. Vecchia qua, vecchia quella, poi per pastere, però perché che cazzo per tutto sforzo, no, sforzo, perché dai, hai capito? Sì, infatti. Passo, però più
credo che sì. Allora, poi la dove pagantisti, ti fanno mandare a bordo, magari no, poi ci va anche per prendere anche per volta. Spaccati. L'ultimo quello di dimenticatore. Comunque, arrivo là, che devo la parte domanda che ho fatto. Questo di Carlo, che si prende questo bene, però a breve, no, perché faceva fuori che sa, capito? Voglio dire, dai, io la chiesto per la pensa di qual era? So, si è buttato perché no, ho detto che sono questo è il scegliere la scala. Io ho detto che trovo, è scritto che cosa no, sto per tutto che sa, ma certo, capito? Se devono ripetere la facciale, si chiama dare. Non ci penso. Che è conosciuto di schiaffo sarà successo che può essere ci sono io non provo perché per sentire che fa le funzioni come se spingi che se non è sarà il secondo è il 2013 mi devi vedere magari un cavaliere ci deve un basso a me sta sul dentro mi sta qui guarda ci stiamo a chiara che il cambio come facciamo se sbagliare che dico hanno sbagliato più bravo fitness facciamo quindi cose se c'è una macchina questo No, perché se penso alla roba in mezzo all'Italia, no, cosa, cioè, così. Dove porti? Dove porti? Signore, dai, allora se mi preferisci come nome parabelo, mi piace, perché c'è stato 99, ecco così. Grazie. Forte perché è una variante da principio. Che data di portarsi il voto. Capito? Questo è il simpatico mondo delle forze armate, signore e signori. Che poi, tra l'altro, nel 2024 è stato il primo convegno sul biological safety, convegno mondiale dell'Interpol a Lione. Gli unici che mancavano erano i carabinieri. No, ok, mancavano anche altre pulizie di alcuni stati, ma c'era praticamente tutto il mondo. E poi c'erano i forestali, che proprio sulla biosafety, quindi riguardava molto l'inquinamento ambientale, riguardava i vettori, riguardava un sacco di cose. E i carabinieri non ci vedono nessuno, perché pure loro sono... No, non so, sono avanti le loro opinioni, che ti devo dire? Boh. Ok, this is a short presentation. We are almost done, okay? It's not not a lot to do, okay? I'm lying. Okay, this presentation is about vectors because I told you about agents, but we need to talk also about vectors. Online si vede?
Sì,
Ok. Okay, this is a brief educational video from the International Committee of the Red Cross, se parte. Vediamo un po'. No, non parte. Parte, non lo so. No, non parte. No, non parte. No. Sorry, the link doesn't work. Okay, but there is you can find it on the no, yeah, on the internet. It's called It's Never Been Easier to Develop and Use Biological Weapons. It's a small video, it's 2 minutes long, not more, from the International Committee of the Red Cross, the ICRC, and I strongly suggest you check it on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube. Very easy, very didactical, but it's very interesting. So we have different kind of vectors of pathogens. So vectors are not intended to spread the disease, but they will do because they unconsciously carry it in it. And we have mammalians, birds, reptiles, fishes and clams, insects and arthropods, humans. Of course, we have also as vectors biological warfare dispersion means. And it is also a video game really close to reality. Let's start with the mammalians. Mammalian vectors are the most dangerous, of course, because I haven't told you about ENRA and NIPA, about zoonosis, they are much closer to our organism, and so the virus or the pathogen can easily mutate to make the jump of the species. So they are already somehow ready for a human host. As I told you, the pig for Nipah, the fruit bats for Hendra and for other viruses like Ebola, and we have non mi ricordo come si chiama questo qua, il coso delle palme, la civetta delle palme, che non è una civetta, that is considered to be one of the vectors of the SARS-CoV-2. So probably, as I told you, they are the most dangerous vectors for bioagents. Bacteria and viruses can do interspecific infection or transfer from an organism to another due to the analogies, the life cycles, and even physiology between species. Sometimes they need an intermediate host, I already told you, to become pathogenic for humans. This is a typical Italian story, the echinococcosis in southern Italy, still present, but not so spread as it was in the 70s. So, it is an endemic parasite for centuries in some region of, it's a protozoa. In the 70s, a very strong action of information and awareness, thanks to the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Agriculture working together, about the domestic slaughtering procedures of sheep and pigs, led to a drastic reduction of the phenomenon. Currently, many southern regions are now free from echinococcosis, but in other yet it's not disappeared. And I received the first lesson on the echinococcus while I was at third grade. I was 8 years old, with a brochure very similar to the one you see on the side. Because when I was a kid, I was living in a farm, and so I say, "Are you living in a farm?" "Yeah." "Did your parents and relatives slaughter animals like lambs and sheep and pigs?" "Yes." "Okay, they did some studies." And it worked. So the echinococcosis gives a disease called hidatidosis. It's a tapeworm parasite. In larval form, it's a oocyst, can cause the hydatid disease, which is characterized by cysts forming within the victim's body, especially liver and lung. Here. Aspetta. Colomba? Colò?
Nicola, dimmi.
No, ma tu mi hai chiamato?
No, io non ti ho chiamato.
No, con WhatsApp, adesso mi hai chiamato.
Partita per sbaglio, allora, a posto, tranquillo,
Scusa,
continua.
scusa. Si vede tutto? Si vede la slide, sì?
Sì,
Ok,
a posto.
ok, scusa. So this is not considered for biological warfare, but a reintroduction of the parasites in free region could be a deliberate act of bioterrorism, for example, because it affects domestic animals, not only sheep and pigs, but also dogs, and especially house dogs can easily bring parasites to us when they try to lick us or whatever. So I already told you about Nipah virus and Nipah virus in Malaysia, the bat and the pig. Then we have birds. They are in second place after mammals. It's the greatest dangerous vector. Why? Okay, it's obvious. They do not only are a reservoir of biological agents, but they fly through borders. Many even migrate. They can fly for 100 kilometers and cross borders without control. This is the typical case for avian flu. avian flu is easy to detect in chicken farming, but it's not easy to detect in wild ducks or other birds into the wild. As I told you, they are reservoir of important diseases, from salmonellosis and fleas for pigeon, to psittacosis, parrots, and to the dreaded avian flu. The possibility of even intercontinental migration that are not perfectly traceable makes them very powerful vectors and probably also potential unaware agents of a deliberate biological attack. In secondary, the super intensive farms, especially chickens and turkeys and ducks, can represent both a mega reservoir of infection and also a target. So in this case, we can have both agroterrorism and bioterrorism properly said. So psittacosis could be possible as a biological warfare agent. It's a chlamydia. So it's an intracellular parasite, Chlamydia psittaci. As all chlamydia, intracellular, okay. Not all antibiotics work properly to kill it. It's not common to get infected, but it's mostly associated with pet birds like parrots and cockatiels, and of course poultry like turkeys and ducks. Sick birds and infected birds without sign of illness shed the bacteria, their droplets, and respiratory secretions. Not feces, like many things, but respiratory secretions. When the droplets and secretion dry, small dust particles can get into the air. And the most common way someone gets infected is by breathing in the dust from this dry secretion. Then, less commonly, birds can infect people through bites and back-to-mouth contact. In general, people do not spread the bacteria that cause psittacosis to other people. However, this is possible in rare cases, not easy to detect directly because it's a chlamydia, and can be easily considered as one of the many respiratory illnesses. With appropriate antibiotic treatment, the mortality is 1%. Without, it raises dramatically. For biological warfare purposes, it's not enough dangerous, yet probably it's quite interesting for, maybe for genetic engineering. Could be one of the agents to be, on which to be focused. Then we have the avian flu. It's influenza flu type A viruses. They can shed the influenza A viruses in their saliva, nasal secretion, species. Susceptible birds become infected when they have contact with the virus. They also can become infected through contact with surfaces that are contaminated with virus from infected birds. So we have a problem because we have mainly two categories. One with low pathogenicity and one with high pathogenicity. Only some avian influenza AH5 and AH7 are classified as HPAIA virus. So the CDC and the Food and Agricultural Organization conduct routine surveillance to monitor influenza viruses, of course. Their surveillance efforts are focused on human health, while FAO and OIE are concerned with issues affecting animals, food, and agriculture. And this monitoring is constant, because it's easy that the two viruses can combine together to do a high pathogenicity, high mortality virus. Luckily, it's never happened, but it could. Then we have reptiles. Reptiles and birds have very similarities. Okay, except the feathers and the flying and whatever, but they have same ancestors. Anyway, reptiles, from the point of view of transmissible diseases, except for salmonellosis, they are quite free. They're safe. On the other side, fish and clams can be a good vector for parasites. Also clams, but they can be also vectors. But clams usually do not travel. Clams are stationary, sedentary. The snails move very slowly and for short distances, so they are not very. I'm okay. You know, I'm thinking like I am a bioterrorist and I'm looking for a vector. Clams are not for me, unless I want to spread the infection in my city. Snails are very, very slow. But fishes, on the other hand, they can travel for a lot and cross oceans. So, in fishes and clams, we can have typical snail. This is the Bolinus globosus, and is responsible of about 10,000 deaths a year thanks to its parasite, its schistosoma hematobium. On the other side, herring, salmon, tuna fish, cod, hake, mackerel, anchovies, monkfish, swordfish, amberjack, plaice, sardines, and many others, often are affected by parasites of the Anisakidae family, the Anisakis. That it's not useful. Here you can see here the Anisakis, here the Anisakis, here the fish of Anisakis. It's not good as a biological weapon, but it is giving a lot of trouble for especially people who like to eat crude fish. So they can often be host for many parasites. These parasites can easily be destroyed by cooking or heating, but as I told, we have a problem with the consumption of crude fish like sushi. They can be also reserved for many pathogens like Vibrio cholerae, Salmonella species, and whatever. For what is known, no one ever researched the use of fishes and clams as vector for biological weapons, biological warfare agents. Anyway, as I told you, fishes can swim for long distances, in some cases with the precise routes and destination. Just imagine salmons or eels, and they could be a useful vector for a foodborne disease. Insects and arthropods. This group is the biggest and also the widest of all, and they can be reservoir for every sort of pathogen, from parasites to viruses. So, in my opinion, they could be the best resource as vectors of biological warfare agents. So, we have also entomological warfare. Let me introduce you. EW is a type of biological warfare that uses insects to attack the enemy. The concept has existed for centuries, and research and development have continued to the modern era. EW has been used in battle by Japan, and several other nations have developed and been accused of using an entomological warfare program. May employ insects in a direct attack, or as vectors to deliver biological agents such as the blood. Essentially, entomological warfare exists in three varieties. One type of EW involves infecting insects with a pathogen and then dispersing the insects over target areas. The insect then acts as a vector, infecting any person or animal they might bite. Another type is a direct insect attack against crops. So the insect may not be infected with any pathogen, but instead represent a threat to agriculture. The final method uses uninfected insects, such as bees or wasps, to directly attack the enemy. Simply. Here, the Xylella case, as I told you, the frog hoppers, or superfamily Cercopoidea. They are hemipteran insects. In Italian, it's called sputachina. Yeah. The smooth pickles, because they produce a foam that reminds of spit, simply. Spittlebug. Some insects in the superfamily are serious agricultural pests. Specifically, Afrophora seems to be the main vector for Xylella fastidiosa, subspecies Pauca ST53, the bacterium responsible for the olive quick decline syndrome or OQDS. This agent is creating huge damage to Italian olive cotton. Huge damage. It is proven that its diffusion is not intentional, yet it demonstrates how insect as a vector can be a big invisible menace. Try to imagine if it was deliberate, because it started in a small part of Lecce/Brindisi province, and then spread it for an awareness, for a responsibility, but not intentionally. Try to imagine if it was intentional. Up to now, all the olive trees in Italy will have to be infected. Then we have humans and biological warfare dispersion means. The best vector for human disease are other humans, of course. So, we can transmit via multiple routes, like airborne aerosols and respiratory droplets, like airborne diseases, fecal oral route for foodborne diseases, contact route or vector-borne route from animal to human, then human to human. Then animal to human, human to animal to human, because now we realize that the dengue fever can infect insects by human. So the infected mosquito bite me. I get infected and develop the disease. A not infected mosquito bite me and drink my blood. It becomes infected mosquito and goes to another human. So it is insect-human insect infection. That's why it's really important. Okay, probably you don't remember, in the summer 2023 or 24, in the municipality of Pano, in the Marche region, they developed 104 cases of dengue fever. All inside the hospital, Pano hospital. People. So, a not very smart investigator should say, okay, probably the infections start in the hospital, okay, because they are all in the hospital, they already are in the hospital. So, if you go to Google Maps, you can see that the Fano hospital is surrounded by water channels. So, quite easy to develop the Aedes albopictus mosquitoes infected that then bite an infected patient and go to another patient not infected that became infected, you know. Okay, so the major of the final major, when he realized he had 104 cases, I mean 104 cases, it's a major emergency. Do you remember how okay, some of you can't know that for Italian regulation of civil protection, a major emergency is when you have huge damage to infrastructures and houses, and or at least 30 cases of injured people or infected people, it depends, 30 cases. So when you have 30 people infected, you are in a national emergency.
With the same things.
In Italia, per la protezione civile.
With the same, stessa malattia, stessa...
Yeah, of course. No, 30 people infected, one has the flu, one has the cold, one has the cholera. No, 30 people in a short period of time, of course. So it's an outbreak. Okay. And so the menu say, oh, maybe we have a problem. Okay. Same stuff in the municipality of Ortona in the Abruzzo region, near my city, with 4 cases of dengue fever. Never had cases before. 4, just 4. No, did they travel? No, no. And then, yeah, okay. The major took the phone, called the enterprise and say, kill everything that flies and have more than 2 feet. And so the cases remains 4. It's easy. L'ho fatto anche così. So, we focused on pathogens that are transmitted by direct or indirect contact. Why? Because direct contact transmission requires physical contact between an infected person and a susceptible person. And so the transfer of pathogens via touching or sexual contact or contact with body fluids or lesions or whatever. Indirect contact refers to infections of a susceptible person via a contaminated surface, like vomits, and it could be. We have a multi-route transmission. For example, on the 5 known Ebola virus, 4 are known to cause disease in humans. Infection with Ebola virus causes Ebola virus disease, of course, is an acute systemic illness. The Zaire outbreak, it was about 90% mortality, while recent outbreak was about 50%. Of all potential transmission routes, direct contact with patients or body fluids from this patient, as well as contact with contaminated surfaces or materials, is considered the most important. So it's a multi-route. So we isolated the Ebola virus from blood, breast milk, semen of all the infected patients. In addition, Ebola virus RNA has been detected in sweat, tears, stool, or skin from vaginal and rectal samples. Then we have sexual transmission. Well, the HIV-1 is the archetypal example of a sexually transmitted human pathogen. Probably you already know about it. Can be contracted by sexual, percutaneous, and perinatal routes, and nearly 70% of infection results from heterosexual intercourse. And we know about the rest. Respiratory contact transmission and vomits. One of the 6 known human coronavirus and the Middle East respiratory syndrome, like the MERS-CoV, are responsible for high morbidity and mortality in infected individuals. The other 4 human coronavirus have low pathogenicity and are associated with seasonal common colds. We know that. The zoonotic origin of 4 out of 6 human coronavirus has been elucidated. So we know that HCoV 229E, SARS-CoV, MERS-CoV originate from bats, and HCoV OC43 from bovines, whereas animal ancestor for HCoV, HKUI, and NL63 are still to be found of coronaviruses. SARS-CoV and MERS-CoV are predominantly transmitted by direct H2H contact, human to human, droplets and vomits, and have not yet established long-term and sustained human-to-human transmission. The replication occurs mainly in the lower respiratory tract, in type 2 pneumocytes and alveolar macrophages. Biological warfare dispersion means you already seen the UG-50 bacterial bomb, 1943. Then we have a Soviet multipurpose bomblet cluster bombs for chemical and biological weapons from the 70s and 80s. Here we can see a sugar cube with an internal vial containing anthrax spore. Guess for who? Horses. The horse will eat the sugar, break the vials, infected with anthrax. Then we have other rocket system or parachute cluster bombs or other cluster bomb. This is still from the Soviet area. This is a cruise missile with a sprayer. And then this is a rocket, what type of rocket it works. It seems to work. Anyway, the best means of dispersion of biological warfare agents still remains the sprayer. The possible use of drones is of great concern, of course. Okay, in this case, it was a U helicopter spraying Agent Orange during the Vietnam War. So it was chemical agent, not a biological agent, but could be. And so in this way, also bioterrorists could use agricultural transit tools for their purposes. So, for use of biological warfare, the best vector, of course, is the human one. Is it clear? Just like the divination, first, and the experience of the Japanese unit, you already seen, it would be enough to infect infiltrators or unwitting prisoners and then send them home. See, this happened with Confederate prisoners, I told you, with smallpox. But it was not a deliberate action, of course, but the human agent is the most probable one. This is a video game. You can download free on in Google Play. I personally, it's $0.99. It's worth of it. It's called Plug Inc. You already know it. Very, very interesting. But the most interesting thing is that the algorithm of the spreading of the disease inside the country and whatever is developed together with the CDC biologists and doctors. Yeah, and you can find they also gave their algorithm. You remember the Planet of the Apes movie? Yes. The first one, you know, when the no, il primo della nuova cosa. Yeah, no, the one with the simian flu. Oh, okay. There was the pilot that started bleeding on the nose, and they took the plane, and then started a map with the plane route, and then all the small route of infection. The was developed with the same algorithm of. It is very, very nice. It's very fun. Then you can play with with zombie virus, with vampire virus, with neural worms from the space. Okay, but the part is that you can use both bacteria or viruses or fungi or whatever, and your objective is to infect the whole world and to kill everyone. Now there is the updated version that you can play in reverse. You can play with the scientist part and develop a cure. So the computer plays the bad guy, and you play the good guy. While in the original game is the opposite. You play the bad guy, and the computer tries to stop you. It's very, very, very interesting. Okay. I already told you. So CDC itself recommends the game during the simulation lesson. It comes out in American schools. You can evolve all traits, bacteria, you can develop resilience, drug resistance. Yeah, but you need evolution point to do it. So you need to gain. So, for example, parasite. When you play the parasite is very low to disseminate because it's natural parasite. While the virus infects most people quickly and start mutating by itself. The parasite is really slow. It's really slow to cross the border, and so it's the trick. Infect the pigeons. You infect the pigeons, and the pigeons will go your dirty work. And I already told you. And this is the video. Okay. Download the game. Blah blah blah. It was okay. Okay. This is all. And now we just have the case study, and we're over. I'm in time. Oh. Anyway, what emerges from WHO investigations is that in Europe, in Western Europe, up to 2050, the biggest cause of mortality in population will be drug-resistant infections. Drug-resistant infection. So we don't need really to wait for a biological warfare agent while we can have natural drug resistance evolution. Okay. These are the case studies. I collected the best, most important case study during history. of bioterrorism or biocrime. Of course, they are all non-state actors. So truly biocrime, truly bioterrorism. Do you think they are not? They are. Okay? So we have 5 cases to analyze. The first and most important about biological warfare, okay, because we also have bioterrorism, chem terrorism and chem crime with the chemical warfare. What is it, the bio? We have the Rajneeshis, then we have the Amshnikyo, the Ameritrax case, the Stroliul berries, and the cookie terrorist. That was a hoax, but it was anyway a menace. So we can see a strange strawberry, and then a flower, the Nelly oleander, Bacillus anthracis, and Salmonella typhimurium. What they have in common, they are all have been used for biocrimes or bioterrorism. This presentation wanted to illustrate some infamous and less infamous, but not less dangerous case studies. And we start with the case number 1, with the Rajneeshis. This is my dark humor. Don't mind. Okay, we are in the Dalles, Oregon, 1984. We have a commune, the commune of the Rajneeshis that were following a religious leader called Rajneesh, that is Osho. Okay, now it's called was called in Italy Osho, but in the 80s was called as Rajneesh, and the responsible agent was the Salmonella typhimurium with 751 people infected and 45 hospitalizations. The perpetrator were the Rajneeshis, a religious sect. At least 12 members protested, at least 8 executed the plan. The motive was to sway the county elections. And this is the truth, okay? The Rajneeshpuram community located in West County in Oregon in 1981. Then, in the same year, they took political control of the small nearby town of Antelope in Oregon, that has a population of 75 residents, and changed the name of the town in Rajneesh. The group was started on friendly terms with the local population, but relations soon degraded because of land use conflicts and the commune dramatic expansion. It was, the 80s, all the new age. Okay. Then in the 1984, the commune leadership sought to gain political control over the rest of the county by influencing the county election in November 1984. Their goal was to win 2 out of 3 seats in the Wasco County Commission, as well as the sheriff's office. So we are a religious commune, the sheriff is one of us, 2 councillors are from us, so we do, okay? But things start to get worse because the people, the residents, organized against them. So what they think? They thought planned to seek and incapacitate the voters, the resident voters in the Dalles, where most of the county's voters resided, to sway the election. So if you are sick, you can go to vote. Oh, sorry for you. Okay? And so approximately 12 people were involved in what they did, they purchased Salmonella bacteria from a medical supply company in Seattle and stuffed cultured in labs within the commune. And in September, October, they contaminated the salad bars of 10 local restaurants with Salmonella infected 751 people. 45 people received hospital treatment, all survived, but 751 people infected. So at a press conference, Rajneesh, later known as Osho, accused several of his followers of participation in this and in other crimes, including an aborted plan in 1985 to assassinate a United States attorney. And he asked the state and federal authorities to investigate. He was later accused of illegal immigration and banned from the USA, no evidence found about his involvement. The Oregon Attorney General set up an interagency task force composed of Oregon State Police and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and executed search warrants in the Rajneeshpuram. A sample of bacteria Salmonella typhimurium was found in a medical laboratory inside the commune, which matched the contaminant that had sickened the town resident. Moreover, an invoice dated September 25th, 1984, from the American Type Culture Collection of Microbes was discovered showing an order received by the Colts Laboratory for Salmonella typhi, the bacterium responsible of typhoid fever. Never employed, luckily. Two of the Rajneeshpuram officials were convicted on charges of attempted murder and served 29 months of 20-year sentence in a minimum security federal prison. Joseph McCann in 2006 said that in every respect, the Salmonella attack carried out by the cult members was a major bioterrorist attack that fortunately failed to achieve its ultimate goal and resulted in no fatality. But you know what? 751 people represents the biggest biowarfare attack on population since the biological warfare is. Then we have the case study 2. It is much more complex because the Aum-Shinrikyo was a military sector. So this is what they did. And we can see the Shoko Asahara, the leader of the Aum-Shinrikyo, real name is Shizuo Matsumoto, was the Aum-Shinrikyo sect was a syncretic sect that mixed you can see Indian and Tibetan Buddhism, Hinduism, Shiva with the god of destruction, some has also Christian millennialist idea like the end of times near, the writing of Nostradamus. Okay, it was a cult, a sect made of really mad people, but they had a lot of money, they get a lot of money. How? Through crime. So, at the beginning, they were considered controversial in Japan, but not was associated with serious crimes. And they was really like mafia, okay? It was during this period that Shoko Asahara became obsessed with biblical prophecies. And so the public relation activity included publishing comics and animated cartoons that attempted to tie its religious idea to popular anime and manga themes, including space mission, powerful weapons, world conspiracies, and the quest for the ultimate truth. So they started attracting controversy in the late 80s with the accusation of deception of recruits, holding cult members against their will, forcing members to donate money, and murdering a cult member who tried to leave in February 1989. But it is just only the beginning, because in October 1989, the group's negotiation with Tsutsumi Sakamoto, that was an anti-cult lawyer threatening a lawsuit against them and could potentially bankrupt the group, failed. The following month, Sakamoto, his wife and his child went missing from their home in Yokohama. Well, the police were unable to resolve the case at the time, although some of his colleagues publicly voiced their suspicions of the group. It was not until late the 1995 dog attack that they were found to have been murdered and their bodies dumped in separate locations by cult members. Separate location in the 4 islands of Japan. They were kidnapped, killed, cut in pieces, and one arm in Hokkaido, one leg in Fukuoka, one other leg in Yokohama. Like this, just to say how the cult was big and spread and made of fanatics. They killed all, the lawyer, his wife, and the child. So anyway, the cult is known to have considered assassination of several individuals critical of the cult, such as the head of Buddhist sect Soka Gakkai and the Institute for Research in Human Happiness, Even the cartoonist Yoshinori Kobayashi began satirizing the cult. It was included on the Auschwitz assassination list. And even an attempt, missed attempt, in 1993 against Kobayashi. Then in 1993, the cult members sprayed a large amount of liquid containing Bacillus anthracis spores from a cooling tower on the roof of Aum Shinrikyo Tokyo headquarters, just to see if an outbreak could happen. But they planned to cause an anthrax epidemic failed. The attack resulted in many complaints about bad smells, but not infections, luckily. Then, at the end of 1993, the cult started secretly manufacturing the nerve agent sarin, and later even VX. The Aum Shinrikyo tested the sarin on sheep at Banyaran Station, a remote pastoral properties in Western Australia, killing 29 sheep. Both sarin and VX were then used in several assassination attempts in 1994 and 1995. In June 1994, the cult carried out a chemical weapon attack against civilians when they released sarin in the central Japanese city of Matsumoto, prefecture of Nagano. They used a converter refrigerator truck and they released a cloud of sarin which floated near the homes of the judges who were overseeing a lawsuit concerning a real estate dispute which was predicted to go against the cult. This Matsumoto incident killed 8 people and harmed 500 more, but not the judges because they were so stupid that the wind moved the cloud and instead of this building, they hit the building aside, killing 8 people and harming 500 people. Police investigation focused only on an innocent local resident, Yoshimiki Kono, and failed to implicate the cult at the time. Then we have, in December 1994 and January 1995, we have Masami Tsuchiya of Aum Shinrikyo synthesized 100 to 200 grams of VX, which was used to attack 3 people. 2 of them were injured and a 28-year-old man was killed. He is believed to be the first fully documented victim of VX nerve gas in history. Then we came to the Tokyo subway sarin attack. On 20 March 1995, the members released a binary chemical weapon, most closely chemical similarly to sarin, not exactly sarin, but very similar to sarin, in a coordinated attack on 5 trains in the Tokyo subway system, killing 13 commuters, seriously injuring 54 and affecting 980 more. Some estimated claim as many as 6,000 people were injured by the sarin. And of course, the first responder that came for first didn't knew about the sarin, so the rescuer became victims. That's why preparedness and awareness now are important, because we all starting here. All starting here. So then the hunt for the cultist started, and they found in their headquarters on the foot of Mount Fuji explosive chemical weapons, a Russian military MA-17 helicopter, found biological warfare such anthrax and Ebola cultures. There were stockpiles of chemicals that could be used for producing enough sarin to kill 4 million people. Police also found laboratories to manufacture drugs such as LSD, methamphetamine, and a crude form of truth serum, a safe containing millions of US dollars in cash and gold, and containment cells, many still containing prisoners. During the raid, Aum issued statements claiming that the chemicals were for fertilizers. And in the next 6 weeks, over 150 cult members were arrested. Hideo Murai, that was the head of the Aum Shinrikyo Ministry of Science, was stabbed to death outside the Cold Stock headquarters amidst a crowd of about 100 reporters in front of cameras. Finally, they found Asahara that was hiding in the headquarters within a wall of the cult building known as the 6th Satyan. and he was arrested. On the same days, the cult mailed a parcel bomb to the office of Yukio Oshima, the governor of Tokyo, blowing off the fingers of his secretary's hand. So they were really mafia, you know, worse than mafia. So for this case, Japan reintroduced death penalty. Just for this case. Because, effectively Japan still have death penalty, but it was not applied since the late 50s, late 50s, and they reintroduced the death penalty for Shoko Asahara and other 6 members in 2018, the death row. Okay, I'm against the death penalty. You know, I don't like at all death penalty, but in a political way, I could agree with Japan government. Why? Because this guy, Asahara, was a charismatic leader of a band of fanatics. So having him in jail could represent a danger, because they didn't know if the cult stored other nerve gas or whatever, or bombs or whatever, somewhere in Tokyo. So they just, they are Japanese, they thought practically, you cut the head, the safe head. And so it was. So Asahara and the other 13 members. Then we have the case study number 3, let's call it Ameritrax. Just after the 9/11, what happened? A first set of letters containing anthrax had a Trenton, New Jersey postmark, and was dated September 18, 2001, a few days after the terrorist attack of the 9/11. 5 letters are believed to have been mailed at this time to ABC News, CBS News, NBC News, and the New York Post, all located in New York City, and to the National Enquirer at American Media in Boca Raton, Florida. The first known victim, Robert Stevens, worked at Sun Tabloid and died on October 5, 2001, 4 days after entering a Florida hospital with an undiagnosed illness that caused him to vomit and be short of breath. The presumed letter that contained the anthrax that killed Stevens was never found. Only the New York Post and NBC News letter were actually identified. The existence of the other 3 letters is inferred because individuals at ABC, CBS, and AMI became infected with anthrax. Scientists examining the anthrax from the New York Post letter said it was a clumped, coarse, brown granular material which looked similar to dog food. Then we have 2 more anthrax letters bearing the same Trenton postmark, were dated October 9, 3 weeks after the first mailing. The letters were addressed to the US Senator Tom Daschle of South Dakota and Patrick Leahy of Vermont. At the time, Daschle was the Senate Majority Leader and Leahy was the head of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Both were members of the Democratic Party. The Daschle letter was opened by an aide, Grant Leslie, on October 15, after which the government mail service was immediately shut down. The unopened Leahy letter was discovered in an impounded mailing bag on November 16. The Leahy letter had been mass director to the State Department mail annex in Virginia because the zip code was misread. Luckily, a postal worker there, David Hose, contracted inhalational anthrax. So the senator was safe, but the postal worker not. Then, more potent than the first anthrax letter, the material in the senator letters was a highly refined dry powder consisting of about 1 gram of nearly pure spores. A series of conflicting news reports appeared, some claiming the powders had been weaponized with silicate. By a weapons expert who later viewed the image of the anthrax used in the attack said, saw no indication of weaponization. At least 22 people developed anthrax infection. 11 of them, of whom contracted the especially life-threatening inhalational variety. 5 died of inhalational anthrax. Stevens, 2 employees of the Brentwood main facility, and 2 other sources of exposure to the bacteria is still unknown. Katie Nguyen, that was a Vietnamese immigrant resident of the New York City borough of the Bronx, and the last known victim that Ottilie Lundgren, a 94-year-old widow of a prominent judge from Oxford, Connecticut. We don't know. All of the material was derived from the same bacterial strain known as the AIDS strain, which is a common strain isolated from a cow in Texas in 1981. All of the letters were copies made by a copy machine. The originals were never found. Each letter was trimmed to a slightly different size. The Senate letters use punctuation, while the media letter does not. The handwriting on the media letter and envelope is roughly twice the size of the handwriting on the Senate letter. The envelope addressed to Senator Dashiell and Leahy at the fake return address, 4th grade Greendale School, Franklin Park, New Jersey. The New York Post and the NBC letters contain the following note. 9/11, this is next, take pain as healing now. Right, wrote like this, exactly. Death to America, death to Israel, allies great. The second note, those sent to the Senator Dashiell and Senator Leahy, say, 9/11, you cannot stop us. We have this anthrax. You die now. Are you afraid? Death to America, death to Israel, Allah is great. Okay. The investigation. A major focus in the early years of the investigation was bioweapon expert Stephen Hatfield, who was eventually exonerated. Despite the anti-Israel proclamation and the bodily vehicle written in the letter bodies, the track of external terrorism was never really taken into consideration by the investigators. And they were right, because investigators said, okay, this is some of us, it's not some from outside. Bruce Edward Evans was a scientist at the government biodefense labs where, unfortunately, where there is the USAMID. On April 11, 2007, Irving was put under periodic surveillance and an FBI document started that he was an extremely sensitive suspect in 2001 anthrax attack. On July 29, 2008, Irving committed suicide with an overdose of acetaminophen, Tylenol. Federal prosecutor declared Irving the sole perpetrator of the letters, based on DNA evidence leading to an anthrax vial in his lab. This episode is just partly unexplained, and of course, it struck the heart of a country that was already suffering the 9/11 event. And even if it had a limited outcome, they showed the vulnerability of the democratic system and the ease in finding biological agents in the USA. Okay, after 2001, this is just to think about it. Many things have changed, but can we say that we are safer than before? I don't know. Can we say we don't live in fear? I don't know. Because we have the case number 4, sorry. In these cases, we have terrorism or mafia or anyway, case of terrorism. This is also terrorism, but a different kind of terrorism. So, that's it. How a disgruntled employee can terrorize the world with just $2 Australian, so €1.50. We are in Queensland and Western Australia in 2018, so just before the COVID-19. A food safety crisis started in September 2018. Numerous punnets of strawberries grown in Queensland and Western Australia were found to be contaminated with niggers. Okay? The Queensland police reported that by November 2018, there had been 186 reports of contamination nationally. By September 16, 2018, the following brands have been identified. These are all the strawberries grown in Queensland. These are the strawberries grown in Western Australia. They are all great producers. The government, of course, had a response. So the Queensland Premier announced a $100,000 reward for information relating to the arrest and conviction of anyone responsible for the sabotage. Then she announced a $1 million assistance package for the strawberry industry in the state. So it was indeed an ugly, calculated, and despicable crime. But more, the two largest food retailers in New Zealand, the Woolworths New Zealand and Foodstuffs, announced that they would be removing Australian grown strawberries from the shelves. The Senator Bridget McKenzie, Minister for Regional Service, issued a media statement describing the contamination as a deliberate sabotage and urging consumers to exercise caution and cut their fruits before consumption. So, in November 2018, a 50-year-old farm supervision, Mai Mut Trin, of Vietnamese origin, was arrested in Brisbane and charged with 7 counts of contaminated goods relating to one of the initial cases of contamination involving the Berry Delicious brand. So she was fired and she planned a revenge, but she started a copycat effect that terrorized Australia and New Zealand and spread fear all over the world. Why? Why, in your opinion, spread fear all over the world? Tell me your opinion.
Imitation.
Yeah, imitation, but focus on the target. What is the target of this biocrime? Let's call it biocrime, even if it's not bio. Fruit. Who is the fruit? Everyone, in every part of the world. So, for example, now 9/11 hit the USA, but okay, I live in a small province city. We have no major building, no great government building. I'm quite well, okay, safe. I don't think that a Al-Qaeda terrorist group will come to bomb Pescara, you know. But I ate fruit, I ate everything. Everyone ate everywhere. So if I found a copycat in my city, a madman who started putting needles in the strawberries, I will probably get a strawberry with a needle. You know, the question is that the biocrimes concerning food, and food is something that hits everyone all over the world. We can see also the other copycat, more than 20 incidents. The New South Wales police reported a young boy arrested after admitting to hiding sewing needles in strawberries as part of what police considered to be a prank. But after this episode, the current penalty in New South Wales for deliberate contamination of food is up to 10 years in jail. And also a customer in New South Wales Central Coast discovered a needle inside a mango. Copycat effect. But you know what? Why this is really dangerous? Because first of all, the target is food. Second is that needles are very less expensive. And so to spread the fear, you remember the main purpose of a terrorist act, what is terror. So why I need to spend $100,000 to buy a bomb, biologic weapon, when I can just buy 10 euro with a pack of needles and go in the supermarket and starting to fill the fruit with needles. Okay, it doesn't matter, it will not be lethal, but can hurt children, can hurt elder people and whatever that goes to hospitalization and they start to fear. And so that's why, yeah, I did a good job, you know. More, the economic loss of Western Australia and Queensland, because one Queensland farm, just one Queensland farm, burned off 500,000 strawberry plants, deemed unsellable as it was cheaper than ours. All the products that was wasted, tons of fresh product being wasted. And so the fear of tampered food spread all over the world because every human being, of course, needs to eat, and then every country is potentially vulnerable. So, as I say, due to recent reports of product tampering, Western Australia Department of Health has advised customers should inspect and cut up strawberries before consuming them. We don't need sophisticated equipment, advanced technology, or whatever. This is the last case study, and it's all European. And it concerns the cookie terrorists. Have you ever heard about the cookie terrorists? Because the media in Italy said about nothing, just because I was looking for, this one. Okay. April 2019, just before COVID, blackmailers threatened to poison food companies. A set of blackmail letters with a postmark from Gand in Belgium was sent to the major food and cooking industry of Europe, a group named the Quick and Flupke Associated, they are characters of a famous Belgian comic, asked 300,000 euro for each company, otherwise they were going to tamper their products with oleandrin. Inside the envelopes, a mysterious green powder. Analysis evidence that it was powder of oleander's leaves. Nerium oleander. Here it is. Oleandrin is the cardiac glycoside toxin extracted from the ornamental plant Nerium oleander. And that's why I remember my mother always told me, don't play with your oleander seeds, don't put in your mouth. Why? Because of the toxin. Well, it is related to resin, or the Nerium oleander. It's a cousin of the regions. This is Bruce formula, the KS number, the molecular mass. It's a potential lethal plant if ingested. The poisoning by this plant is a common toxicological emergency in tropical and subtropical countries. All parts of the plant are toxic, and it contains a variety of cardiac glycosides, including derifolin, termitin A, termitin B, and oleandrin. It causes abdominal pain, diarrhea, dysrhythmia, and hyperkalemia. The LD50 on cat is 240 micrograms per kilo. Micrograms, not milligrams, micrograms. So, this is news from Italy. The ultimatum was on 20 May 2019, no ransoms were paid. The analysis of the powers delivered actually contained a certain percentage of oleandrin. So, no EU government took seriously the problem for what is known. Okay? No specific emergency communication was done. Even the media were kept silent. So, I think anyway that the intelligence and secret services of the European country probably investigated deeper to see who they are and what they did. But they realized, but nothing was found. Media reported the blackmail attempt only marginally in Belgium, in Spain, in UK, Germany, and Italy. The common people, at least in Italy, apparently didn't even notice the biocrime attempt. Strangely, the French food industry were not blackmailed at all. Probably they were French, French. After the ultimatum date, no attacks followed, so it was assumed it was a hoax or a dangerous prank. But you know what? To extract oleandrin from oleander leaves or seeds, you just need a mortar and to crush the leaves, a couple of becker glasses to put solution of water and ethylic alcohol, and you can do it. It's not difficult to extract oleandrin. It's and oleander are everywhere in Italy. Okay, so this is just to say, even if it's not probable to happen, we have many sources, many potential sources of biological agents and or toxins to use it, and we are partially unaware about that. And luckily, we don't have people that are mad enough to try to do something, but the danger exists. The risk is not high, but the danger exists indeed. So anyway, after this episode, the biggest European food industry is increasing dramatically safety and security levels, also because of the needles in the strawberry. Now, the biggest European food industries, before delivery of their products, they pass it and boxing the products. They pass the products under a metal detector. They started in 2018 after the needle accident. And more, they dramatically increased safety and security levels in production factories, in storage building, in logistics. For example, the concept of food defense, that is different from food safety and food security. Because food safety is food safety, like, you know, HACCP. Food security is related for WHO and FAO for the security to big feed. I mean, is related to the security of food for people. The food defense is part of these two, but it's more because it's related at the defense from deliberate act of tampering or intent. And it still has an embryo up to now. However, the USA are working a lot in food defense, but the USA are the USA, and they have many flaws that we don't have in Europe. Just for example, the medium enterprise, medium food enterprise in America has 300 workers in it. The food medium enterprise in Italy have 50 the workers. So 50 workers are much easier to be controlled with camera while working, while going in, going out, with alarms and whatever, than 300. So, more, we have fences around the building. Why? Because we are afraid that thieves could steal our trucks and cars. While in America, all the facilities are open space. You just can go there. There is the guardian that's moving around, but you can go there and go inside. And if no one notices you, no one says nothing. While in Italy, it's impossible, because if you cross the fence, probably an alarm will start playing. The dog will try to attack you, and the owner will come out with a shotgun. So this is not especially in Italy. It's not. So it's difficult for someone who is not inside the facility to tamper the production. While in America it's not. So they are going to fill the gap in a few years. So these are good news, but the increasing safety and security can be sustainable and even desirable in a large company. For small and medium enterprises, especially retailers, Look at the case study number 4. In a supermarket, how can you do the food defense in a supermarket? With the bars for salads, with the bars for fruits, fresh fruits that you can take with your hands. It's difficult. Yeah, okay. You have a camera watching people for theft prevention, but how can you defend the food? So they certainly represent the weak link in the chain, the retailers, and are considered extremely vulnerable to any deliberate attack. So globally, we suffer from a lack of culture of food defense. If you speak about food defense, most people, even inside this environment, say, "What?" Like this. So I think it's our duty to guarantee for safety, for trust, for peace of mind for everyone, and we will do our best. So peace through awareness. Awareness is at the basis of everything. Thank you for your patience. It's 5 p.m. We are over. We can do some exercise, but we are going to give you a break before, and then I will show you just. I have a game to show you, but not. The lesson is over. Presentations are over. I just have to show you a game, to do a game with you. Let me. Eccolo qua. Eccolo qui. This is yeah, from the outlet. This is okay. The presentation is fine, okay, but I took the game from the outbreak of the CDC. It's a funny game. You can play on internet. You can play on your Android, on our Apple iOS. You have 12, 8 plus 12, 12, 20 different outbreak to solve. They give you clues. It's like the things, you know. They give you clues, and you have to answer the quiz and earn points if you answer well or not. This is just the episode 1 because I'm starting to developing tabletop exercises, so I will use you as my come si dice cavia, non mi viene, as volunteers for my experiment, but not now. In 5 minutes, so we take a coffee.
Vabbè, almeno quando si sta pagando, ma anche ci programmi.
Grazie di prima. Prima di sapere e noi non abbiamo preso lavorando. Parliamo. Sì, fare, però magari stiamo male non ci vede poi non iniziamo a farsi vedere di ascoltare magari insomma di non fare cose esatto, perché sono sempre a lavoro.
No?
Sì, fatto tutto, tanto di essere senza tutto.
Ok.
Pure che non lo fai con i documenti, fai solo una foto, vabbè, lo stesso.
Come con documenti?
Che non fai da note, non mi interessa, basta che è la foto, c'è bisogno di solo,
Ah.
che non ti preoccupare,
Qualsiasi dato. Sì. Non so se vai in casa di pace e poi se ne vanno e fanno questa matematica se no diciamo è l'università che tu non l'hai riportato quindi la questione realtà senza pregiudizi grazie sì sicuro sì però magari possono fare anche grazie ci mettiamo due bene proprio grandi quanti vedete grandi non metto il telefono ah no sì, abbiamo fatto quando prendemmo sì. Questo serve, nonostante che non capiamo, io di sicuro vorrei va bene, stanno aspettando perché lì quando mi era quando ritrovavo le cose vestito con ecco Io me ne lavora. Sì, non lo Seria? La strada. Cioè, ah, sì.
Vengo tra qualche giorno.
Questo è il tuo amico.
Ecco perché io volevo il futuro per qualche tanto passare. Ma prima e secondo. Il primo e secondo?
Dice che il primo fa un tipo di trailer diverso.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, poi 2. No, però poi Marco se n'è andato. Marco chi? Marco se n'è andato. Marco se n'è andato alle 3:30. Mi ha segnato qua. Non mi ha detto. No, no, mi ha scritto a me. Ok, allora mi metto no. Fino alle lettere comprese o no? Sì, alle 3:30. Quindi qui metto no. No, no. Ok, gli altri sono rimasti. E lui l'unico Marco, no, che se n'è andato, sì. Ok, l'unico no. Sì. Quindi 16 e 17 no. No. Ci metto l'asterisco. Meno. Messo fino alle fine.
In spagnolo adesso. Quello della luce. Ma che ci fa? Solo mi passo questo. Vabbè, allora con tutta la semiotica, no? Adesso tu non sta così loro. Sì, sì. Gramma. È troppo poco, è tipo
Non ce lo so, cioè, finite, riguarda la storia di ma non è che secondo te non lo so difficile soprattutto poi
Dai, grazie. Sì, allora, cioè, allora, vabbè, dai, grazie, ciao a te. Milano. No. No, non guardare il video. Sono io. Ragazzi, non male, non mi impressionate. La parte sarà un po' però ci sono. Gli altri sono come una evidenziali per spiegare la materia.
ah sì, ho risposto che di farlo
Operatore, queste parti, esci, esci, dovete lavorare.
Ripeto, puoi fare la legge. Se cerchi il pensiero, per applicarci.
Ragazzi, c'è un po' di sì, poi c'è una grandezza gloriosa, però cioè, poi c'è significato da questo, che se c'è da spostare un sasso, tu devi avere la qualifica per spostare i sassi, se non i sassi non li sposti. Okay, let's back to the work. This is just a simple game, okay? It will take 10 to 15 minutes, so you will be extremely at last 20 minutes, not more. Okay. As I told you, this is a game. A slide, this presentation is taken from a game. Okay. What is Solving Outbreak? It's a CDC interactive application, and the users, in this case you, will act as disease detectives. You will have to analyze data, to interview cases and request lab tests, and of course, you have fictionally outbreaks based on real epidemiological scenarios. The learning objective, of course, I'm doing a presentation because the CDC put them free to use for educational purposes. So this is an educational purpose, and so I can use it. Understand the outbreak investigation steps, practice decision making under uncertainty, and learn public health response strategies. This is the logo, content used for educational purposes. Okay, go on. So the outbreak, the case outbreak number 1 is called the Breathless in the Midwest. It's a classroom case study with the quiz. So this is the scenario overview. The location is Chicago and Milwaukee in the United States. Reported over 2 days, 15 people visited emergency rooms. The symptoms reported were high fever, fatigue, coughing, chest pain, and difficulty breathing. The impact reported in scenario were 15 sick, 15 hospitalization, and 7 deaths. So a mortality close to 50%. So your mission, okay, we work as a collective team, so it would be nice to do small groups to see, but we will do it together just to check. A startling outbreak has been reported in Chicago and Milwaukee. Okay, several people have died, others are near death. Your goal is to investigate exposure, identify the cause, and help stop the outbreak. Clue number 1. Index case interview. The first reported case is a man named Zeke, a 37-year-old musician from Chicago. He felt tired, started coughing shortly after leading a music workshop for 50 students at a Chicago concert hall. He also traveled recently and had a flight home from Africa. So, quiz number 1. Where do you think Zeke caught whatever made him sick? A. The flight home from Mali is from Mali. B. The music workshop. C. It's too soon to know for sure.
Sì.
Okay. The correct is C. It's too soon to know for sure. The rationale is it's too early to tell when, how it caught it. The disease isn't identified yet. The teaching point is this: avoid anchoring bias, confirm bias, and confirm etiology before inferring exposure. So, Zeke and friends traveled to Mali last week. Zeke met a drum maker and helped make jellies, animal skins, and food. He brought home 4 jellies. Friends on the same 20-hour flight did not develop the same severe symptoms. So, the friends are okay, Zeke is not. Day 2, the doctor suspected that the patients could be infected with anthrax. More cases of the mysterious illness are being reported in Chicago and Milwaukee hospitals. Patients' loved ones are in a panic and are hoping you can help find out what's made everyone sick. Lab results show patients are infected with a bacterium that doctors suspect might be anthrax. You immediately send the sample to public health laboratories for testing, but that will take a couple of days. In the meantime, you need to talk with everyone who is sick and their families to find out which activities they participated in before becoming sick. Looking at the responses to your question, it seems many of the sick people recently participated in the same activities, such as working in a government building or attending a music event. We have the data with the attack rates among the sick and healthy people who participate in listed activities. So, this is the number of people who participated in activity. This is the number of people who did not participate in activity and are interviewed, okay? So, work in or near a government building, went to a baseball game in Chicago, attended a music event in Chicago, went to a baseball game in Milwaukee, went to the music event in Milwaukee, took an international flight. As you can see here, the first column is the people interviewed that participated in this activity. We have 11 sick and 35 well, with a total of 46 and 25% of attack rate. While people who did not participate, 4 sick and 50 well for a total of 54, attack rate is 7%. What is the trick? The trick is to find out the attack rate of people who participate in activity versus the attack rate of people who did not. And to answer properly, to find the main suspect, okay, you should have a high attack rate here and a low attack rate here. For example, went to a baseball game in Chicago, have 12% the attack rate in the people who participated, and 60% of people who did not. So the attack rate is very similar. This suspect can be deleted. But we can have others that are different, okay? So, the people who did not get sick are controls, and the people who got sick are the test. You already have gotten information directly from sick patients or family members of those who died. You interviewed 85 people who are not sick but participated in similar activity as those who are sick or died. In outbreak investigations, we call these people the population at risk of getting sick. Each person was asked what they did in the 2 weeks before getting sick. The attack rate was calculated for each activity. To find a possible source of the outbreak, look for both a high attack rate for those who participated and a low attack rate among those who did not. So, So in this case, the highest attack rate is this: attended a music event in Chicago with a 0% on the other side. So even we can have took an international flight at 43 versus 13, or 38 versus 13, or 24 versus 7. 60 versus 0 is too high. So probably here is the trick, you know. So, okay, anthrax is a serious disease. Can we find out already in the soil? This is just a few schedule about the pathogen. People can get anthrax by handling products made from infected animals, breathing in anthrax spores from animal products, eating undercooked meat from infected animals, being exposed to anthrax spores by bioterrorists. Anthrax can get into the body through the skin, lungs, or digestive system. So, the quiz number 2 is what would you do next? A, recheck the data to see if there is one activity or exposure that all sick people have in common. B, interview the workers in every government building in Milwaukee or Chicago. C, cancel all music events in Chicago. What you will do? Okay, who says A? No. Who says B?
A.
Okay. Who says C? A or B? A. Quindi abbiamo, we have 3A and 3B. So the correct answer is A. Recheck the data to see if there is one activity or exposure that all sick people have in common. Knowing what activity or exposure these people have in common can help you find out where this outbreak may have started. It looks like all the sick people attended a music event in Chicago. You may be onto something, but what about a high number of sick people who work in or near a government building? It was the second level. Is that something about to worry too? So, clue number 3, postal workers are watching for suspicious packages. With the large number of government workers who are sick, you decide to look into it more, okay? Police reports show that there was a bioterrorist threat 3 days before Zeke and the others got sick. A former government employee threatened to mail anthrax to his own office building in downtown Chicago, okay? You interviewed the 2 sick people from Milwaukee to find that neither of them had been in or around any government building in Chicago in the 2 weeks before getting sick. This is the definition of bioterrorism. It's a deliberate release of viruses, bacteria, or other germs, agents, cause sickness of living people, animals, or plants. Anthrax can be released quietly without any known knowing. Bioterrorism is in packages like the Ameritrax. It's one of the most likely agents to be used in a biological attack. It only takes a small amount of anthrax to infect a large number of people. So, how do you think the people in Milwaukee got infected with anthrax? Yeah, the answer A is anthrax was mailed from Chicago to Milwaukee. B, the sick people in Milwaukee visited the government building in Chicago. C, more evidence is needed before we can determine if the bioterrorist threat is real. What is your answer?
ABC.
Who says C? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Only 5 people say C? Okay, anyway. The correct answer is C. We need more evidence and lab tests before we can determine if this bioterrorist threat is real or a hoax. There are 6 people 100 miles away near Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Milwaukee. And remember, these 6 people told you they had not been in or near the government buildings in Chicago. True 4, blood sample tested positive for Bacillus anthracis. So, testing at government buildings and lab tests, the authorities find no evidence of anthrax in government buildings. The bioterror threat was a hoax. Meanwhile, the result of the blood test you sent to the public health labs indicate a need for further testing, so you send them away to special labs at the Centers for Disease Control. The results from CDC labs show Bacillus anthracis. Based on this finding and the patient's symptoms, the doctors diagnose each patient with inhalation anthrax. You tell all the patient to begin treatment immediately, but if it's anthrax after all, doesn't that mean the police missed something? So these are hints. Zeke the first people who went to us. They learned how to make jambs in Mali. Since you ruled out the government building at the place where all the sick people came in contact with anthrax, you review the attack rates and the interviews again. You find that everyone who tested positive for anthrax also attended a music event in Chicago, where Ziggy had his music workshop. So, these are treatment of anthrax. Usually, the election therapy is a cocktail of different antibiotics, but the anthrax spores in a person takes from 1 to 6 days to be activated, and some spores can take more than a month before they do so. That's why the people who have been exposed to anthrax must take antibiotics for 60 days to ensure that anthrax is no longer in their bodies. It's not a joke. Huh?
They take for 1 month. They take antibiotic for a month, for 1 month. For
The CDC list says 60 days. A month. And they use an antibiotics cocktail. Noi usiamo l'antifromicina.
Sì.
Per 60 giorni, they take azithromycin for 60 days, your liver will suffer a lot. But okay, it's better than take anthrax. I mean, you need to be no, well, okay. People who have been exposed, not maybe anthrax, but really exposed. I mean, this classroom, okay. Me and the other 50% of these people fell sick of anthrax, the other 50% not, the 50% not take antibiotics for 60 days, for sure. But you need to be sure. And okay, definitions, this is the inhalation anthrax. They can get anthrax germs are inside your body, they start to grow and multiply, blah, 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 blah. It releases toxin that will attack your body, make you sicker and sicker. Here the symptoms are much like symptoms of the flu, like fever, chills, cough, nausea, or vomiting. Other symptoms include confusion, dizziness, trouble breathing, chest pain, headache, sweats, often drenching, extreme tiredness, fatigue, and body ashes. So, what do you think started the outbreak? So, A release of anthrax at the music event. B, a person at the workshop had contracted anthrax and was still contagious. C, someone in the workshop had received anthrax in the mail.
We received A.
Of course. Maybe something or someone at the music event had been contaminated with anthrax. Let's see what happened. So, clue number 5. All of those with anthrax were in Ziggy's music workshop, and you already know that. All of the people who became sick were together on the day of the workshop. You're now convinced that the workshop is where anthrax was released, so you still aren't sure how. While you try to figure that out, there's something else you need to do. The 35 workshop participants who are healthy must be given antibiotics to prevent them from becoming sick. Post-exposure prophylaxis, it's called, since they may have been exposed to anthrax. So, Ziggy used goat skin he brought from Africa to make a drum during his workshop in Chicago. You talk to Ziggy again. He remembers the drum maker in Mali was coughing and having trouble taking deep breaths, similar to the symptoms of all the sick people from the music workshop. You investigate further, contacting health authorities in Mali. They tell you that the drum maker passed away shortly after Ziggy returned to Chicago. Ziggy also tells you that during the workshop in Chicago, he demonstrated how to make a drum using goat skins he brought back from Africa. You decide to go back to the other participant at the workshop to ask about it. Interestingly, most of the sick people reported while Ziggy was showing them how to make the drum, they noticed a large amount of dust and particles floating in the air. So people can get anthrax through contact with infected animals of the product, such as kites or air. In fact, anthrax was used to be called the wool sorter disease, and was considered a common risk for workers in the wool mills, in slaughterhouses, and factories that processed animal hides, hair, and bone. It is rare in the United States, but outbreaks do occur in wild and domestic animals. Early vaccination of animals is recommended in areas that have had anthrax in the past. The disease is most common in part of Central and South America, Sub-Saharan Africa, Central and Southwestern Asia, Southern and Eastern Europe, and the Caribbean. So, how do you think the anthrax got into the music workshop? So, Ziggy caught the illness from the drum maker, then spread it to others. B. Spores were on Ziggy's clothes, which he had worn in Mali. Or C. Spores were on the drums and goat skins Ziggy brought back from Mali. Oh, okay. When the drums and skins went to show, blah, 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 the drums and the goat hides he brought back from Mali were not treated effectively with chemicals to kill anthrax spore. Ziggy also did not report the goat skins he brought back from Africa to the Customs and Border Protection. Because of this, when he returned to US, it was verified that they had been properly treated to kill the anthrax spores. This is the aftermath. This scenario was not real. There have been several real-life investigations of anthrax involving drums made of contaminated animal hides. The disease detectives in 2006 determined that a drummer making in Pennsylvania caught inhalation anthrax by working with dried goat hides that had traces of anthrax spores. And in 2009, a New Hampshire woman became sick with gastrointestinal anthrax after participating in a drumming event. Anthrax also has been used for the Americans, you already know that. Thanks for playing. It's an educational game of CDC. It's available for PC, Android, and iOS, or directly to this link. But if you just Google on CDC solve the outbreak, you will go directly to the site, and you can play with the other scenarios that are very, 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 very interesting. Some of them are not only biological, but there are some that are also chemical. But anyway, it's a way to manage. It's very, very interesting exercise. So the lesson is over, but I want to add something about this. The CDC need the disease detectives because USA do not have a public health system. Okay, not a real public health system. If you remember, in the past years, in Italy, there was, okay, this discussion is not about politicians, but it's about politics, of course. There was some politician of a certain part of the government that asked the home doctors, the doctors of common medicine, those family doctors, to give the names of any illegal immigrant they had to trace. And the Italian Doctors Association refused categorically to do that. They say it's not possible, it's illegal, and we will not do that. But it's not because they like the immigrant people. No, illegal immigrant people. I mean, it's a question of public health. Because if I am an immigrant from illegal immigrant, I came with a boat or with a truck, even inside some goods, I don't know, from one country outside the UA, and I feel myself sick, I go to the hospital and I say, I should take, and they will cure me, and they will analyze my blood and whatever. So, if I am contagious, the public health system will suddenly recognize my disease and isolate me and start a prophylaxis or whatever, trace my route and whatever. If I am afraid that the doctor will report my name to the police to be expelled, I will not go to the hospital, like in the USA often happens. And so, me and probably my family, my relatives, and my friend will hide in our apartments or buildings or whatever in a closed environment, and we all get sick, and probably we also die without going to the hospital. And so, this is a spot of a potential major outbreak. And so we need the Center for Disease Control teams that move with helicopter and the SCBA suites like this. And it is quite often you see in USA team like that going inside cement buildings. So giving healthcare to anyone, it's not only a question of humanity, it's a question of public health. And most people did not realize this. Say, oh, but you are an illegal immigrant, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but doing this, I can suddenly recognize a problem and put an end to the problem. That's it. It's quite simple. And so that's why the Doctor Association refused to the government request. That's it. Thank you for your huge patience. It's it's almost 6 p.m. Ci siamo in tempo, Sabri? Ok, possiamo. Grazie a tutti. Spero. I really hope I didn't bore you to death. But bowling is not contagious anyway. Ok. Colomba. Colombita.
Eccola. Posso
Termina
interrompere?
registraciones.
Certo.
Interrompo, ok.
Dai che non lo passo, lei.